I'm Tom Pugh-Jones. I run Mor Search, and essentially we build out go-to-market teams for high-growth software companies, both across the UK, Europe, and North America. I'm based in Cornwall in the UK, sort of in the southwest corner there, right on the Atlantic coast.
And what's so interesting, obviously, as you're aware, the go-to-market thing was quite popular. I mean, throughout the sales process, but now it's the hottest thing there is. Everyone's been talking about go-to-market with obviously with the rise of AI. During COVID, we saw a huge shift in high valuations, a lot of hiring. Then post-COVID, kind of a little bit of a jump down. How have you seen now, obviously, with the rise of AI? How has hiring been affected by this headcount rise, this rapid scaling? Are people hiring now, trying to synergize? Kind of what's going on within the market now, especially around go-to-market, where we're seeing more and more talks about using AIs, yet this go-to-market role seems to be more popular than ever, especially with empowering sales teams.
Post-COVID, or straight after COVID, when the whole world went remote, massive valuations, people just going for headcount at all costs. And I think what you got there was, huge valuations, everything becoming very expensive and probably quite inefficient. So then after that, we got the layoffs, which was a pretty rough time in go-to-market hiring, should we say. And then I'd say, in the last 12 months, the rise of AI has been pretty incredible. But what we're seeing is, yes, companies are hiring, but they're not hiring anything like the numbers that they were hiring like just after COVID. And I think they're just becoming a lot more efficient with the amount of tooling that's out there. So you can do so much more with so little, right? And that's where this the go-to-market engineering role that you were talking about has been super interesting. Just looking at systems, processes, hacks, and how you can get results quickly with very little human input.
Yeah, no, I was just saying, I think this, like, the go-to-market engineer thing was so interesting because about, my career mostly was in RevOps initially. And back then, RevOps was the cool person on the street. No one really knew what they did. It was kind of like what product marketing or product management was 10 years ago, where everyone knew about the title, but didn't know what work they actually did besides scream at engineers to some extent. But now with go-to-market engineering, like you said, over this past 12 months, came up from nowhere. I guess they say Clay invented the role. Do you find, though, I guess tying into this is obviously because the role is relatively new, there's an idea of what it is, but still when building the job description, it is a little bit of a guessing game what it really is building around. Do you find when working with companies, there's a clear understanding of what the role is intended to be, or do you see a lot of companies now kind of using it as a catch-all with the idea that, well, with AI, a person can do anything, so this one person has to solve all our problems? How have you seen companies really trying to unlock this role specifically?
So I think some people think that role is almost like a magic wand, and that it will just sort out their whole kind of revenue piece. I think some hiring managers see it as one thing and others see it as another. But typically, what you're getting is analytical, techie people that are also interested in like commercials and seeing results, building things quickly and being kind of whizzes around it. And I think I was working on a go-to-market engineering role quite recently, and the people that were doing well within the interview process are either people that have come from a kind of growth marketing, slightly sort of hacky startup background, or you've got almost like a founder profile. So they've been in the weeds, they've built a bit of product, they've done a bit of selling, they've done a bit of marketing, and then they've put them all together. But they're also tech savvy and looking at, because they've been a technology founder in the past, they are on the button in terms of what new products are coming to market. And actually, I think this has been the sort of first 12 months of the go-to-market engineer type of thing. And actually, the pace of how go-to-market tooling has come on within that time, you are going to have that go-to-market engineering piece is going to change, because I think non-technical people will be able to build workflows using no code, or not even a no code, like buying a go-to-market platform that will be able to do all of that for them, and they can architect it through like drag and drop kind of plays. So I think that rolls around at the moment, but I also think a salesperson that is able to pick up pain points, have conversations, and then use a tool like this, or use tools that are coming out like that, will actually mean that in time, the GTM engineer piece may fade out, because actually non-technical people will just be able to use tools super easily without too much hesitation and learning, if you like. Does that make sense, Brendan?
I think that's exactly it. It's really funny because beginning of like these past few years, when I was mentoring with a lot of startups, there was this idea of like we need to hire AI engineers. AI engineers, pay them $1 million salary. Then recently, talking with a lot of these founder groups, it was almost was a pivot with these vibe coding tools. And what's crazy is, like, I'm semi-technical, and I use a lot of no-code tools like a Zapier and n8n for these workflow automations. Those are now considered technical compared to these vibe coding tools where you just talk about the workflow and it's built for you.
Yeah.
So it's this no code is, even like you were saying, less than no code. It is just does it almost. And I think what we're saying with the AI engineers thing, it's almost now where obviously the 1% of anything are needed, but for a lot of these like intermediary or hacky things, well, I can just vibe code or no code a CRM, a tool I need. So there's this weird shift. And I think what you're saying with the go-to-market engineer is now, like, I think about twice or three times a week, I'm looking at new go-to-market tools because the market is moving so quickly. And everyone says they do something kind of differently, but trying to figure out what is good, what is not, is a challenge. But like you're saying, eventually the tools become so easy to use. The classic sales rep who understands what they need to be done and can ask the right questions can build the tools and doesn't even need the go-to-market engineer or the tech support to do it. And I think that's a unique cyclical nature of this industry, is where AI is becoming a lot of these are becoming so simple to use. You really just need one person who understands pain points effectively, and they can build out the process. So
100%.
I think it's a really good insight, just because you said that 3 months ago. I'm like, it's so technical. There's so many tools. This is impossible. And now I'm working with my founder, and he's setting up helping set up go-to-market systems for enterprise deals. It is so simple. And obviously you have to know what you're doing still, but it's this ease of use. And it's funny because, like you said, no code tools are now considered very techy.
Yeah.
Like no code was like the business person's tool. Now no code's too complex. I'm being told a Zapier's this is too technical for me, compared to like the API key version, which is the day before. So it's really interesting.
Yeah. So you can have an idea and pretty much implement it through, not having a technical background, but just describing what you want to do, and then it's there.
One thing that is always the case is the hardest thing in life is knowing what questions to ask. If you're a founder, if you're a salesperson, if you're a technical person,
If you're
knowing what questions to ask is the skill set. Yeah. So those people are needed. So I think you empowering the best to get better is really kind of where we're seeing this. And it's interesting, like you said, with the shift of the go-market engineer. Right now, it's really hot, but with all these tools, no idea where it's kind of going to go and how complex it might be. And like you were saying, we were hiring our first go-to-market engineer on our team. It was realizing that's this generalist, and I was a generalist my whole career. Generalists seem to be more popular now, being able to do a little bit of everything. Have you found that when kind of hiring these individuals, and you touched on this a bit, is this shifting more to a generalist world where you're trying to find all around individuals, especially in these scale up companies, because the job description month 1 may be so different than job description in month 3 because things are moving so quickly? How are you able to find good candidates when especially working with a fast paced business where you really don't know 3 months from now what the heck they're going to be doing?
Yeah. I mean, so what I found with the go-to-market engineering role, they were just really
Mm,
prioritizing ex-founders because they can
mhm,
hit the pace. They can work with you know very little resource. Um,
mhm,
I think that gives a general skill set, but you've got touch points again, like of
mhm,
product, managing engineering teams. You understand aspects of how
mm.
product development works, but then you've got the sales and
Yeah.
marketing, the operational piece. So I think as technology goes on, the more generalist approach to it, but with commercial savviness, will be a big one.
Mhm. What I was told first year out of school from everyone is learning how to do sales will never hurt. It's also a useful skill. I don't think being able to communicate is ever going away. Um, but what I remember listening, there's like some famous clips around some of these VCs and private equity people saying, "I hire physicists because you can teach a physicist finance, but you can't teach a finance person physics." So it's the idea of having someone who's very intellectual,
Yeah,
understands process, understands pain points, you can mold them to whatever you want.
yeah.
And that's kind of what we're seeing more and more, especially with this role. How, as obviously, we keep talking about AI, you have people on both ends, people who think AI is useful but overhyped, and other ones who think you don't need to hire anyone. It can all be done through AI tooling if you just have the right workflows. How have you found, especially when working with these teams, like where is the human in this AI chain have you found with most success? Is it the orchestrator? Is it how do humans fit into this now? Is such a funny conversation to have, but
Well,
it kind of is the case now. Is
into,
where are you seeing hiring or at least the headcount being most effective?
so, well, where's the human in the recruitment process?
Yeah, or I'd say even more in when hiring for teams, there's some of the view and is that we're going to use an AI tool instead of hiring here.
Hmm.
We can use an AI workflow for our marketing.
Yeah.
Where have you seen a lot of these people or these teams hiring real humans to do these roles? Is it more on the go-to-market engineering side? Is it still marketing roles? Where have you kind of seen the most success of getting humans in place rather than trying to replace the whole role functionally with AI tools at this point, at least?
So there's still roles there, but people are becoming more efficient with their jobs. So you can,
Mhm,
so if you've got, so let's say marketing, like if you've got a mid-level marketer, they would have still been in the weeds doing um, execution, but will have been exposed to a bit of strategy. So if they've been using new
mhm,
marketing tools against two of them, and if you stack that up, they're still executional, they're still strategic. So I think like what I've seen in marketing, like the
mhm,
marketing leaders that have been kind of hands off for a while, their
mhm,
their value's a lot less than it was 4 years ago. Managing huge
mhm,
marketing
mhm,
teams, whereas yeah, if you've got somebody that's tech savvy, been in the weeds, and can execute and use these toolings, they're offering a lot more value for money than somebody that's just been working at the top on strategy, if you like. Does that make sense?
yeah. Yeah. No, actually, that's totally what I was looking for is kind of what are the, how do you kind of mimic this? And it's execution is still required. And that's kind of what you're looking for and hiring for, especially as you said, these teams get smaller, more efficient.
Yeah.
There's more hands on work rather than managing these massive 1,000 people or 100-person teams.
And just being intrigued by what's out there and how you can make your life easier and your job easier, how to execute at pace, if you like.
The pace is so important, especially like you said, there's so many new things happening. You have to have the hunger to learn because you have to be on the cutting edge to be as effective as possible. But one thing you touched on as well, and this is something, is always an interesting thing when it comes to hiring is you have people using AI to write resumes and you have recruiters using AI to scrape resumes and understand top candidates. How have you found that when especially effectively trying to recruit and find talent when a lot of what's being created may be edited or very highly overstated through the use of tools, being able to make cover letters instantly, being able to make content instantly versus using it effective, or bringing humans into it to understand how is this person as a real person. How have you found, especially trying to find talent for these organizations, has AI made your job easier or harder? Because now everyone's resume looks to be similar, everyone speaks similarly because they're all using the same tools to build out this content, when especially for applying for roles. How have you found that shift from the
Yeah, so I mean,
recruitment and finding
typically,
talent side?
yeah, typically with what I do, a lot of it's headhunting. So I will go out and
Yeah.
find these people, and I think people's LinkedIn profiles are pretty much still written by them. But yeah, I think
Yeah, yeah.
you need a human in it to take the judgment, whether that be a headhunter or whether that be an internal talent person or a hiring manager. You're still
Mhm.
going to need that human connection, but that depends where it falls in the
Mm.
process. But you're still gonna, I think you're still gonna have people that are short on time and bandwidth, which will need a recruiter. And I think from sitting in the seat of a recruiter, you can you can be extremely effective as a small boutique agency and get
Mhm.
really strong results. For example, like the note taker I use at the moment, I'll have a 20-minute conversation with a candidate, and then I'll go into their profile on my CRM.
Mhm.
You know, based on the conversation and the job description you have, is this person a good fit? And it will just ping out a candidate write up, which would have used to take me
Mhm.
half an hour. So you can have more conversations,
Oh
be
wow.
a lot more effective with your time. But then you've also got sourcing tools that are coming into the agenda, where you've got a hiring manager on one side with a job description and somebody's CV on the other side, and they could be talking
Mhm.
to CVs, feeding back to the candidate, feeding back to the hiring manager, and just getting super tight on what they're actually looking for. Um, so learning on both ends and becoming really efficient, which, to be fair, one day that might put me out of a job, but not yet.
What you just said is something I think is so interesting, is the idea that using all these tools allows you, because when you're hiring someone, you're trying to figure out what you want, and when they're applying, they're trying to figure out. It's just like this mismatch of this information, trying to figure out, okay, where do we stand here? But like what you just said is being able to have very specific conversations of, hey, this is what we're looking for. This is how we feel. Let's structure the conversation this way, instead of spending, let's say, the first 20 minutes of an hour interview with the small talk, with the random conversations. Like, hey, we actually know what we're kind of focusing on, and ensuring that there is alignment. Because one of the things is always a pain. Hiring can be very challenging,
Yeah.
but then hiring the wrong person is dramatically worse. So there is still that selection criteria. And I think one thing that's super interesting is we always think of, like, what is AI going to replace? And often the roles we think they're going to replace are the ones that are so sticking around. I remember 10 years ago, truck drivers were all going to be out of a job because AI truck driving, yet engineers are now getting out of jobs. So it's one of those things where you never know what's going to happen. And I think anywhere where there's human connection is still a very far frontier for AI to completely replace, because people like to talk to people. I work in therapy space, and AI therapist is the hottest thing right now, but most people are pretty comfortable thinking that most therapy should still be done with humans, just because there's that empathy side in
Yeah.
filtering out the BS a little bit more effectively than AI
And a
currently.
lot of it's relationship driven, right? And if people get a good service, they like to work with you. And I have that with a number of my clients that, they've become my friends. I've got a handful of clients. I haven't got loads and loads, but they know that they can pick up the phone and get results. And then again on that, with these go to market tools, there's so much noise. Like uh, I mean, like emails just doesn't work anymore. Getting some really good results from just standard old LinkedIn emails and phone calls. And actually, people do appreciate a phone call, and they like that sort of human aspect and a sense of humor, which I don't think you're going to necessarily get from an AI bot, at least straight off the bat.
And I think one thing I had one of my, I did an in-person meeting yesterday with a potential partner, and it was so funny because back in the day when I used to do a lot of sales meetings, everyone hated in person. It was a lot of, you had to drive somewhere and do something. There was excitement around it, where I was like, oh, we're actually meeting in person now. this is nice. There's a real human here. We're having a real conversation.
Yeah,
It feels personal. It's like anything else. It's cyclical. Everyone hated cold calls, and then everyone started sending emails. And now people say, just pick up, just give me a phone call. Just talk about this. I have 1,000 of the same written messages, and like anything else in life, it comes in cycles. And
for
we're
sure.
almost in the back to the cold call era to some extent, or at least phone call era where it's more personalized than
Yeah,
ever before than email typically
yeah.
is.
It'll be letters
But
and
you
carrier
know,
pigeon next.
mhm. At the last organization I worked at, or a few organizations ago, they paid for a service that would handwrite sales letters and email and mail them to the office.
Yeah,
I don't know how successful it was, but everyone thought that was a genius idea. And it's just these funny things now where we're getting so personalized. But if you could get carrier pigeons back to being popular, I guarantee that'd be the next big push and go to market, adding a sequence where you send a pigeon out.
yeah,
Because you're for sure getting some LinkedIn fame if a pigeon shows up at your door with a pitch deck.
yeah. Nice.
But as we wrap up here, I guess kind of the final question to ask is obviously things are really changing within the market. 5 years out is too far, but over the next 6 months, where do you think the big shift is within? And you kind of touched on this a bit already within the go-to-market engineer, or at least on the recruitment and headhunting side. Do you see any big shifts or anything you think will be a little bit different 6 months from now, where budgets are getting tighter, it's getting more specified? Do you
Yeah,
think it's going to be more of a headhunting game where top talent is still the main focus, or where do you see it kind of shifting to?
I think there's still like a massive untapped opportunity of just looking at borderless hiring. So emerging
Mm.
markets like South Africa's a huge one. The talent in South Africa that you can get for almost half the cost of an AE in South Africa is half the cost of an AE in the UK. Um,
Mhm.
Extremely hardworking, extremely well educated, and I think that kind of near shore hiring piece is going to be a big one in go to market. I know people are trying to like push to be back in the office and all the rest of it, but I mean, it's expensive, and there's resources out there that are seriously untapped, and I think that should really be looked at.
I think that's something that obviously people like in office, but the thing is, if you can get talent for half the cost, and there's just a ROI aspect you have to consider as well. And having two hire instead of one, especially if it's half the cost, is such an important thing. But I think that's a great insight. I think we're going to see that more and more because as things get tighter with budget, there's so many other places to look for talent that have really been untapped just because it's been so North America centric or US, especially US centric
Yeah,
with Canadians moving to the US because you have to be in one location and salaries are astronomical. And I think we're seeing as, more startups have to battle for more talent, we're going to get, okay, where's just the best talent, cost effective talent and more cross border hiring. I think it's going to be a really interesting shift. But yeah, thank you so much for your time. And if people want to find you, where can they find you? What's your website and kind of get in contact with you if they're looking to get some talent on their team?
yes, my website is mor-search.com, mor-search.com, and you can find me on LinkedIn, Tom Pugh-Jones.